Who's it? Welcome to the DJ Touch podcast. I'm your host, DJ Touch, the guy your girls about walls. And yet again, I'm with an exciting guest. His name is Brian Seweya. He studied environmental sciences at the University of Pretoria. He is a radio broadcaster and has done so much public speaking during his lifetime. Brian, welcome to the show, man.
Thank you for having me.
How are you doing?
I'm good, man. I'm really good. I'm alive. Yeah. And I'm really just enjoying life in Jay.
I want us to start where it all began. You're from a village in Giyani. It's called?
I'm from a village called Ndengeza in Giyani. It's about 40 kilos away from Giyani.
Yeah.
I was born and bred there. That's where I did all my schooling. And I only came this side when I was done with my high school. Yeah. So I was raised by my grandparents, and then my parents were living this side. They came this side for work opportunities.
Yeah.
So as soon as I was done with my schooling, then I came this side to live with my parents and to also further my studies. So yeah, that's where it all started. I think if you wanna get a really good picture of who Brian is, going back to the village I grew up in is the best place to go. Yeah, because I feel like those are the people that really know who Brian is. And how I grew up, because I feel like how I grew up shaped a lot of the person I am today. Yeah, so I was the person I am was made there. Yeah. And then this side, I think it was just sharpened. Yeah.
So now, we then get to, in today's society, we then get to speak more about the LGBTQIA community. And I'm sure you've got a lot of idea of what we're talking about. And I want you to elaborate to us and explain what that is, what that community is all about. And maybe even if you explain what each and every letter stands for.
Yeah. So maybe before we get there, I'd maybe just like to say firstly that I identify as gay in the LGBTQIA plus, but that's not something I've always known, so maybe just a bit of my journey before I get to explaining what the different letters mean. So I'm a gay man, and I discovered that when I was in grade 8. But it's something I'd always known about myself. So I've always been, obviously attracted to men my whole life. But I just didn't have a word or a name for it as I was, growing up. So growing up, you ask yourself a lot of questions because you live in a society that, expects every guy to be attracted to, to a girl. As a guy, you're expected to have a girlfriend and to have feelings for girls and stuff. So with me, it wasn't the case. So there was always that confusion growing up. Why am I different from the other boys? When boys are together and are talking about girls, you have nothing to say because you can't relate. So there was always that growing up. So as a result of the cultures that we come from, the religious backgrounds that we have as well, that determines a lot of how as queer people how we grow up and how we get to come to terms with our sexualities and our gender identities as well. So in the villages, obviously you obviously don't have a lot of understanding of your sexuality and your gender. I'll also get to that a bit later. So and then in the times that we grew up in, we didn't have social media like we do today. And LGBTQIA plus content wasn't that much on TV, so we really had little resources to teach us about who we are. So you literally have to navigate everything by yourself. You have to find out yourself by yourself, you do all the work by yourself. So with me, everything started when I got this side, when I left the villages, and then I got here when I got to varsity. So in varsity, I'm seeing all these people that look like me. I see men who are feminine, are expressing that, men who wear nail polish, men who wear skates. I see transgender people, and these people are not hiding. I see men holding hands in public. I see girls, just embracing who they are as homosexual people, and that's something I'd never been exposed to before. So that got me thinking, and that sort of kickstarted my journey to accepting myself, understanding myself, and understanding the community. It was obviously a journey, like a very long one at that. But I eventually got to, understand my sexuality, sexual orientation, my gender identity, and my gender expression as well. So what the term LGBTQIA plus means is...
Welcome back to the DJ Touch podcast. Hi there for that once. Just some technical glitches, but we're back to it. And I'm still with Brian Seweya, who's going to be breaking down to us what the term LGBTQIA plus stands for.
Yeah.
Such a long term, man. What does it stand for? And what?
It's a really long term.
Yeah, it is.
And I don't know like what every letter in LGBTQIA plus stands for.
Yeah.
But just know that the whole letter stands for people of sexual minorities, gender and sexual minorities basically. So everything that's in there is about gender identity or sexual identity. So it's transgender, it's gay, it's lesbian, it's intersex, it's bisexual, it's what?
Is there asexual?
Asexual as well, yeah. There's and a whole lot of other letters as well. Yeah. So transgender would be a person who was born
a certain gender, then
a certain gender, and then you identify as a gender different from the one you are assigned when you're born. So for instance, you're born as a female, meaning that you have female genitalia, but you and they'll say that you're a girl, right? But you don't see yourself as a girl, you see yourself as a boy.
Identify
as a boy. So that's a transgender person. And then there's intersex is someone who was born with ambiguous genitalia, but not just that, so they don't fit neatly into male or female, so they are in between. So and then there's a whole spectrum of what intersex is all about. So there are those with chromosomes, something in the chromosomes, so there's a variation in your chromosomes, and then with some it's just their genitalia. You can't really tell whether this is a penis or a vagina, so it's a sort of like a combination of both. So it could be a vagina, but the clitoris is like a bit elongated. It could be a penis, but it's not very clear, what it is. But they're like different variations of what that is. And then there's asexual. So asexual means that you don't have sexual attraction towards people, sort of thing. And there's also like a spectrum of that as well. So there are those who are asexual but still engage in sex. They're different. It's a spectrum as well. So it's not just, so if you say you're asexual, it doesn't mean that your experience is the same as the next asexual person. And then there's gay, being man that are attracted to other man, and then lesbian, being a female, a woman attracted to another woman. But also with sexual orientation, for me to say that I'm a gay man, I have to be sexually, physically, emotionally, psychologically attracted to man, because they are MSM, so these are men who have sex with other men. So you can be a straight man and have sex with other men, and it doesn't make you a gay person.
Is it?
Yeah, that's possible. So you can be, sexually attracted to other men, but not physically or emotionally. Emotionally or psychologically attracted to them. So meaning that you can't form any relationship or romantic connection with them, but it's just like a sexual thing. And then there's bisexual people. So there's an overlap with bisexuality, pansexuality, and polysexuality. So this is a person who's attracted to anyone. They can be attracted to you as a transgender person, a trans man or a trans woman, a man or a woman. So you're attracted to a person you're not attracted to. So with me, I'm attracted to masculinity. And just to clarify that, yes, I'm a gay man, and I'm attracted to man, but I've realized with me that I'm also attracted to masculine women.
Okay.
I'm attracted to masculine women, but not on a sexual level. I'm not sexually. I don't see myself doing anything sexual with them. But when I see a masculine woman, I'm like,
my type.
Yeah. So I would, from something romantic or like an emotional connection with a masculine woman, but a feminine woman is just, I see them as just a person. So I don't feel anything to them. So yeah, what other one?
You're explaining
the letters,
the lesbian.
Oh yeah, lesbian.
And in terms of the lesbian, because I've seen a lot of posts whereby there's I don't know, it's a stud. There's also, is it a badge or is it a
bush and a femme. So this
with those ones, what's different?
So I think those just describe how feminine and how masculine a person is. So even with gay people, so there are feminine ones and masculine ones. So just maybe to clarify something there, a lot of people see a feminine man and assume that he's gay. So there's a difference between gender and sexual orientation.
Yes.
And we always confuse those two. So you look at a person, looks at you and be like, this guy's very masculine, so therefore he's
a man,
or he can't be gay. So there's an assumption that being gay or being a feminine man means that you're gay. Which is not true. So there's a difference between that. So gender is how feminine or how masculine you are, and that's also a spectrum as well. So to maybe get to just give a brief explanation of that, with me, I know at first I said I'm a man, and that's what society sees me as, but internally I see myself as a non-binary person. And what that would mean is, okay, binary means two, right? So non-binary means I don't identify with the two, and the two that I'm talking about here is man and woman. So society sees a man and a woman. So non-binary is everyone who falls outside of that. Like I don't see. So with me, I'm very feminine, but society. The society I grew up in taught me, like forced me to be masculine, because you have to survive. You're always around boys. So you like literally force yourself to be masculine so that you can fit in, So I remember in grade 8, I became friends with these guys, and anytime I did something feminine, they'll be like, no, you need to change that. So that's how I became like more masculine, to a point where people look at me and be like, I never thought you were gay. I was like, well, you can't really like see it on the outside. But now I'm very feminine on the inside. So I don't see myself as a man. I don't fit into that. In my head, it doesn't make sense to me, to call myself a man, because I look at man and be like, that's not me. I look at women also, I'm like, I'm not a woman, So non-binary will be the
none of the
term.
two.
Yeah, meaning outside of that, but that's also a spectrum. I know I'm saying a lot of spectrums, but that's because society sees things in binaries. And in reality, I feel like a lot of things are spectrums. It's not like one or the other.
Yeah, there's just a lot.
Yeah.
So now this is what we're going to do. We're going to be speaking about more all of that coming through with Brian Seweya. He's going to be explaining to us exactly what sexual identity is, and we'll be back just after this one. Who's it? Welcome back to the DJ Touch podcast. I'm still your host, DJ Touch, the guy, your girl, Sabawal. So you guys, Mr. Monday Eatery, number 49 Lepocho Street. And we're still talking to Brian Seweya, who's telling us all about the LGBTQIA community, and also getting to alert us and also give us the information that we actually need to know in terms of this community. But now, before we go too far, Brian, I had a conversation with Puleng Make, who's hosting our afternoon drive at Peli FM, and he explained to me that, okay, in terms of sexual intercourse, you'd find that there is a gay person who is a bottom, there is a top, but there's also a one that is versatile, right?
Yeah.
And I want you to elaborate on those ones and what they actually mean in terms of sexual intercourse.
Okay, so the different labels that way. So this is in terms of anal sex. When we talk about anal sex, right? But I'll get to the other part after this one.
Oh, there's another part.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Let's start with anal.
So with anal, and when it's two guys having sex, there's the top and the bottom, and then there's vas. So top is the one who's giving the penis, who's penetrating the other, who's on top. Yes.
Penetrating.
Yes.
Okay.
And then the bottom is the one receiving the penis. Oh no! Let me actually say it this way. Someone who identifies as top is someone who always gives the penis, who always penetrates
They
the
never
other.
receive it.
So they never receive it.
Okay.
And then versus someone who does both.
Okay.
They're comfortable giving and receiving.
Receiving it, okay.
And then a bottom is someone who always receives.
They don't give.
They don't give. They're probably not comfortable with that.
How do you then classify and say, I am a bottom, I am a top, or I'm versatile? How do you then get to that point?
Yeah, I think it's different reasons. I think there's a personal one. So for me, okay, let me just talk about me. For me, I've always been drawn to, like, the most normal and automatic thing for me, or the most natural thing for me, was just one thing.
Okay.
You know, I've never thought of that.
Which is?
No, for me, it's always been, bottoming.
Okay.
That's the only thing I've always, like, I remember when I started with my, like, sexual experiences, like, in primary school. That's the first thing, like, when I was with a guy, I just opened for him. Mm-hmm. Like, that was the most natural thing for me to do. I've never thought of the other, or giving someone or anything like that. So for me, it was natural. But then for others, I think, because I've spoken to, like, a lot of gay people who don't mind giving or receiving, but because bottoming is painful, because they had a painful first time experience with bottoming, then they're like, I am now fully a top, and I will never bottom my whole life because of that one experience.
Yeah.
So, and I think there's a lot of people who could identify as verse, but because of the pain that they feel during sex when they're bottoming, then they just say that they'll never do it. And also, I think connected to that is how our society understands masculinity. I think a lot of guys are very uncomfortable doing something that looks feminine, because them giving or opening, for someone to, penetrate them seems like a very feminine thing to do. And you know how just how a lot of guys understand what it means to be a man, so I can't do that because it's it's feminine. Apparently there are guys who don't moisturize their buttocks because that's a feminine thing to do. They can't even we have maybe that's a conversation for another day, but I think that also influences how people which label they choose to identify as. So as I said, that's the anal sex part. Before
we get into the next one, you meet with a guy, probably you're at a club or you just anywhere, right? You then start having a conversation with this guy. Now you want to be intimate. How do you then know? Do you guys discuss that I'm gonna be the bottom, or you just see once you enter the room that this guy is actually a bottom, and that means I am forced now to be the top? How do you then know that this person prefers this? So usually there's this assumption that the feminine one is the bottom and then the masculine one is the top, but that's not always the case. But usually in clubs, the tops usually the tops are the ones that approach. Okay. So if someone approaches you, usually you just know. I don't know, but you just know most of the time. We have an app called Grindr. So on Grindr, you put your role, be it bottom or verse, or so at least there before you talk to the person even. I think it's weird asking someone in person whether they are bottom or top, because it's like in your head you're only thinking about sex, like you're not interested in the person for who they are, but you just wanna fuck. So in clubs mostly, with my experiences, mostly the guys just approach me, and it's just like a natural thing for us to just go and have sex, and we know who's gonna do what. But sometimes I've also had experiences where I go into a room with a person and we don't know who's what or who does what, and we just went with the flow. And that's the other part I wanted to get to. Anal sex isn't the only way of having sex. Let's get to the other one. So I think there's this misconception that sex is us just penetrating each other, and there's a lot of gay men out there who are not enjoying sex because that's the only way to know how to have sex. And we know with anal sex it's very painful. It can get very painful. I think anyone who's tried, who's had anal sex knows that the first time was very, very painful. So
So I've lost my train of thoughts. But yeah, there's anal sex, and then there's other ways of having sex. It doesn't have to be only anal.
Okay. Now we spoke about anal.
Yeah.
Right. And before I think we'll just conclude with how painful it is. But before we get to that point, I want us to discuss the other ways of having sex, because now there's a lot of misconception, as you said, about that. From people that are standing from outside, we don't know any other type of sex that gay people have, right? So now please educate us on that one and tell us briefly what the other types are.
Yeah. Okay, so there's a new word that I came across last week called side. It's actually apparently been introduced into the gay community. Side. So it's added on top of top, bottom, verse. So side basically means someone who doesn't want anal sex. So they prefer other ways of having sex. I think saying this the first time you meet someone is letting them know that I am not interested in anal sex. And this, so the only types of sex we're going to have or going to explore are the other types of sex. So the other way, there are like so many other words, but I think just one's understanding of sex determines what kind of sex you have. Because with me, sex is like enjoying each other's bodies. We are sexual beings. We were meant to have sex, and we were meant to enjoy it, to enjoy sex. There's a lot of shame and stigma around sex. Even giving yourself self pleasure, you feel guilty. After doing that, you are alone in your room, but you still feel this shame, this guilt for doing something so natural. So I think our heads are filled with the stigma and the shame that society has filled us with, and I think we all need to take time to teach ourselves and learn those things we've been taught, and just teach ourselves healthy ways of sex, or just a healthier understanding of sex. So you can do a lot of things. You can dry hump. So dry humping is basically when two guys like on top of each other, facing each other, so with their dicks.
But there's no penetration.
There's no penetration.
Okay.
And that's as stimulating, as anal sex. You can... The others, I would say, it's just foreplay, and then there's oral sex, which I would recommend that people use dermal. There are some things called dermal dams or something. So these it's a way of protecting yourself from catching things while engaging in oral sex. But yeah, the others, I think it's mostly foreplay. There's your reaming. You can ream the other person and then like really stimulate it. But I think you can just use your bodies. You can use your fingers to just stimulate one another. But that also goes back to like knowing yourself, knowing your body, knowing what works for you. One thing I once said to a friend of mine is, take your finger one day and just touch yourself, and put it in places you've never put it in. Just feel experience what happens to your body when you do that. I mean, I've done that before, and it felt so good. I was like, oh my gosh, I've been missing out. I took my finger. I was just playing with myself. Obviously I was very horny and stuff, so I was just playing with myself. I was just tired of jerking off, so I was like, let me explore other ways of doing things. Took my finger, and I had some lubricant, and I put it in slowly and out. It felt so good.
And now that is coming to the question that I had in mind.
Yeah.
Because I've read some things whereby they said that the male G-spot is actually in the butt. How true is that?
I think
Can you say you
true.
felt it?
When I was experimenting with my finger, there was an area that I touched, and it felt so good. So I continued just playing with it until I released. So I think
From
that's
the back. Is it?
Yeah. So I mean, so I'm not sure if it's only in gay people or in every man, but that's where our G-spot is. Yeah.
So now, before you spoke about how painful it is, and you also spoke about your first time. Now, I want you to actually explain to me how it was, and this is just on you, right? how your first time was, because from what you said, I just gathered that with other people it becomes painful, but with you it was not that much painful.
It was painful. It was painful. The first time is always painful. Yeah. Because your whole life you've been taking things out through there, and you've never
received anything.
Yeah, like things are always going in one direction, and they've never went in the other direction. So it's very uncomfortable. But also very painful. So I think firstly it's understanding the anus. Understanding what it's made of, it's muscles and whatever. But in order for it to open up, there has to be relaxation. Like you need to be like relaxed and stuff. But that's something I didn't know before I started. And also the reason it becomes painful is because your first time of having sex, you are scared that this is going to be painful. So your whole body gets very uncomfortable, and you don't relax, so the area closes up. So when someone is trying to penetrate an area that's closed, so it becomes very, very painful. Even when there's lube, it's still like really hard for it to enter. You can manage to enter even though it's like constricted, but it'll be like very painful even when there's lube. So the best way to enjoy anal sex is by being fully relaxed, allowing your anus and the muscles in the anal area to completely relax. And that's when things will come in and out without you feeling any pain. You'll only feel the pleasure. But there are people who say there's this uncomfortable pain that they experience that feels good, but I don't want that. For me, it's mostly I want just pleasure. I want to feel the pleasure only.
And the more you do it, does it get less painful?
Yeah, when you do get used to the pain. You do get used to the pain. And also when you like have sex, most of the time, the first entrance is the one that's like painful, because your muscles are like, it's getting in and introducing itself in the body, and then they take it out, and then the second time it goes in, you don't feel any pain. So yeah, I think it's that it's lubricants, using lubricants, allowing yourself to relax, and and doing it as often as possible. Yeah. Sometimes I think it also depends on the dick size and the dick shape, because I realized that some shapes are more painful than others, because they are leaning in one direction, or so and the sizes as well. It can be like a small size, but how they're using it, you find like they're too fast or something, and then it's really painful. And then I've also realized a lot of guys just want to enter, without realizing that area is like very sensitive and it's very soft. So when you do that, like you hurting the person. So that's not recommended. The first entry should be as slow as possible until it's fully in, and that's when your body will relax and be like, okay, this thing is finally in. And then that's when you like start enjoying the process.
Okay, we're gonna get more into what how the sexual intercourse is, because I see like there's a lot of things that you still want to.
There's a lot to be unpacked. Yeah.
We're still gonna unpack that after the break. Check out what Mr. Monday Eatery has got for you. Who's it? Welcome to the DJ Touch podcast. Mr. Monday Eatery. Do make sure that you check them out on Instagram as well as on Facebook to see what you can eat for lunch. Still having a conversation with Brian Seweya as he's explaining to us all that we need to know in order for us not to be judgmental and try to understand and learn before any other thing. So now, Brian, with that one being said, I want to understand from you, how has the reception been, especially from people that don't understand most of these things? How judgmental are they, and what are some of the comments that you've received from the public?
That's a deep one. Personally, I was a full-on Christian some years back, so I built like this whole community around me of Christians. You know, they were my family, they were my friends, but they didn't know I was gay. So I only came out like years after that. So you can imagine when I became out, every one of those people disappeared. So I lost a lot of friends. And then when the family found out also, they were very disappointed. Some stopped talking to you. Some, said that one painful thing I had was an aunt telling me that I used to love you so much, so meaning that they don't love you now because you are now this person. But I understand where that was coming from, because it's the, misconception that this is a decision that you, you just turn yourself gay. This is something you can become, or you can go into or leave as you please. So they don't understand that this is who you are, this is who you were born as. So they think it's a lifestyle, just as you can choose to dye your hair a certain color. So they think you can undo it. So understanding that it's the culture that they come from, and also their religious background as well. So the reception hasn't been that great. It hasn't been good. Every day it's a fight, sometimes even when you meet new people, like you always have to come out. Like the coming out doesn't end, because people see you and assume you're straight. Like, no, I'm not. First thing they'll ask you, who's your girlfriend? Like, I don't have a girlfriend. I've never had a girlfriend. I'll never have a girlfriend. I've never had one. So it's a constant battle, and coming out is a decision that I make every single day to do, as my fight to become to live as myself every single day, So I'm speaking as myself, like as a gay person. Other people in the LGBTQIA plus community have it differently, and even within the gay community itself, our experiences are not the same. I'm very masculine, so I pass as straight. People see a straight person when they see me, but there's someone who's very feminine, and that's the first thing they see when they see them. So it's not the same. But the reception hasn't been good at all.
Man, I hope it gets better. I hope this platform allows people to learn as much as I did, and actually thank you for honoring the invite, coming through to educate us and also give us the knowledge that you have given us today. It's very much appreciated.
Thank you.
My time is over, and I thank you for yours. So but if I did take you in all the right places, let's do it again next time. I just hope and pray I'll be a better version of myself. Until next time, Spina, but Oscar Kawatera. Cheers.